In the shadowed corridors of power where whispers shape the fate of nations, an ageless horror took root. It was the late 1800s, a time of expansion and uncertainty, when a man who belonged more to the night than to the world of the living was elected to the United States Congress. His district? A forgotten expanse in the remote northwest, barely a smudge on most maps. His victory? Unnervingly absolute. This man, known to his constituents as Mr. Griffith, harbored a dark secret cloaked under the guise of political ambition. He was a vampire, ancient and cunning, his true agenda as hidden as his aversion to daylight. His election was no mere chance, but a calculated move in a sinister strategy extending beyond mortal comprehension. Unseen and unnoticed, Mr. Griffith's campaign was as spectral as his true nature. In a district that few could pinpoint, his promises whispered like winds through barren trees, chilling and persuasive. He never campaigned in daylight, a curious fact that went unquestioned in those simpler times. Voters felt an inexplicable pull towards him, a charm that was both compelling and unnerving. They spoke of his mesmerizing speeches, heard only under the cloak of night, his words lingering in their minds like a haunting melody. Griffith won by a landslide, the scale of his victory as mysterious as his seldom-seen visage. This election set the stage for a chilling saga. The peculiar circumstances surrounding his campaign, his nocturnal activities and overwhelming influence, were the first threads in a web of intrigue that would stretch across the country. Upon his election, Mr. Griffith convened with his fellow congressmen, an assembly shrouded in secrecy. The meeting, held under the veil of dusk, was the first step in his ominous design. One by one, the gathered men succumbed to Griffith's ancient curse, their eyes glowing with newfound hunger as they turned. The transformation was subtle at first, a pallor here, a refusal of garlic-laden meals there, but soon whispers of their changed demeanors began to spread, whispers that turned into screams in the night. This gathering marked the beginning of an epidemic of darkness within the very heart of America's political elite, a transformation not just of individuals, but of the very essence of power they wielded. The journey to the capital was a macabre parade across the continent. As Griffith and his newly turned brethren travelled, they left behind a trail of the undead. Small towns and remote settlements whispered of night visitors, politicians in name, predators in nature. Each stop on their route marked a new outbreak of vampirism, as the congressmen used their influence to shield their true activities. The country was unaware that it wasn't just ideology spreading through these political tours, but a much darker contagion. The rumors eventually reached the ears of those in power, whispers that turned into a crescendo of alarm that something unholy was amassing at the doorstep of the nation's capital. As the shadows lengthen and the threat of the vampires grows ever more dire, the government is forced to take drastic measures. In a decisive act, the military is called into action. We see scenes of hurried strategy meetings illuminated by the glow of candlelit maps and urgent faces. Top brass and tactical teams lay out plans to confront the undead menace. Cut to the deployment of troops. Cavalry leading the infantry, convoys of supply wagons and cannons rumbling over rugged terrains, and soldiers, grim but resolute, gearing up with specialized weaponry designed to neutralize their supernatural foes. The music escalates, mirroring the pulse of adrenaline. As the military engages with the vampires, the confrontation is nothing short of cinematic. Under a moonlit sky, the battlefield is a stark landscape of chaos and calculated maneuvers. Soldiers move in tight formations, their actions a dance of discipline and desperation. Each burst of gunfire and each explosion is a beat in the symphony of survival. The vampires, cunning and savage, retaliate with ferocious agility. But the trained military forces hold their ground, their tactics adapting with each passing moment. In this high-stakes chess game, every move could mean the difference between victory and a nightmarish defeat. As the battle reaches its crescendo, The scene captures not just the clash of power, but the stark contrast between the cold machinery of human warfare and the primal horror of the vampires. The outcome hangs in the balance, the night air thick with tension and the weight of impending consequences. As dawn breaks, the tide of battle shifts decisively in favor of the military. The relentless determination of the soldiers begins to overpower the vampiric onslaught. Under the first light of morning, we see the vampires falter, their supernatural strength waning against the disciplined might of the human forces. The soldiers, exhausted but victorious, regroup and celebrate their hard-won success. In the aftermath, history books are rewritten, erasing the names of the vampire politicians, ensuring their dark influence is forgotten.